Oh, welcome, welcome, everyone. We're so glad that you were here and able to join us today for the last webinar in our series. Um, we have been presenting for National Speech Language Hearing Month, May 2025, every Wednesday at noon on a different AAC related topic. And so today is the grand finale for May, but that doesn't mean that AAC learning ends. We're, going to be around to offer, future trainings and things like that. We'll also be publishing the webinar series on our websites as well in the future. So definitely check back for some additional learning opportunities. So we're going to go ahead and just get started today. So today's topic, we're going to be covering exploring AAC apps. And so it's a deep dive and a demo. This is a frequent topic that we offer when we do these webinar series. And we like to feature some, new variety or some different apps each time as well. Because there's a lot of different training opportunities available for some of the more heavy hitters, those popular apps. Of course, we're going to take a peek at some of those and talk about them briefly, but we are going to focus more on some maybe lesser known apps as well today. So we'll talk more about which ones we're specifically going to look at in a little bit. So just some logistics before we dive into the content. So we're using Zoom for the webinar. Live transcription captioning is available. If you're not seeing that option in your Zoom controls, you might need to update your Zoom to the latest version. We are also using the Q&A and chat features. We ask that if you have any questions related to the content of today's presentation, feel free to type those in the Q&A feature so that we can either, answer them live on the webinar or, type an answer back to you in the Q&A. We also ask that you use the chat for any kinds of for comments or thoughts that you might have. We also are sharing the handouts in the chat as well. If you aren't able to download the handout from the chat feature, that's another sign that you might need to update your Zoom as well. But if not, you can feel free to send me an email. Jen's going to put my email in the chat, so you can shoot me an email and I'll make sure to get you the handouts from today's presentation later this week. We're also going to hopefully have some more time at the end for questions. Of course, if you're joining us on your lunch break and you got to go, we'll let you know when the bulk of the content has concluded, but we will hang on for a couple extra minutes. And we are also going to be able to provide certificates of attendance for the webinar. Please note that to receive a certificate of attendance, we do ask that you attend the entire duration of the content. And that you complete the survey. So the survey and certificate requests are the same form, and we will share the link to that at the end of the webinar as well and put the link in the chat then at the conclusion of the session. But we do verify attendance with the Zoom record. And we just ask for patience with that because I have to make the certificates by hand and it takes me a little bit to get those saved and sent on over to folks. But yeah, so those are just our kind of, housekeeping, logistical things for today. So here are a list of our learning objectives for this session. We hope that you definitely take a lot more with you, but these are kind of the main key points we're going to cover today. So recall at least 3 AAC apps available from the lending library. So we are TechOWL. TechOWL is Pennsylvania State Assistive Technology Act program, and we do run a statewide lending library for folks in Pennsylvania to borrow different types of assistive technology equipment to try out. That does include iPads and apps. especially AAC apps. So the apps that we do talk about today will be available in our lending library should you want to give them a try. If you are attending from outside of Pennsylvania, if you live in a different state, each state does have their own version of TechOWL. They're just going to go by a different name. Each state has an AT Act program, and there are lending libraries that are similar to ours available through a lot of those programs as well. Another thing that we're hoping that you are able to take with you is just how to make some basic edits with at least one of the apps that we discussed today. A lot of times when you kind of learn how to do one, a lot of the process does carry over to some of the other apps as well. So it's a good starting point for your learning. And then we hope that you're able to describe at least one difference between two of the apps demonstrated or the ones that we're talking about. So some disclaimers. We are speaking from the perspective of speech language pathologists, and we consider ourselves to be SLPs who do specialize in AAC. AAC is what we do all day. But again, we are speaking from that more professional lens. So it's always good to, seek out reviews and the experiences of AAC users themselves, so you can form a more holistic approach or viewpoint of different approaches or topics in the content that we discussed today. So you have myself, I'm Haley, Jen, and Cassie. We are three of the four AAC services coordinators and SLPs for the TechOWL program, and we're joined today by Courtney, and Courtney is our speech language pathology graduate student from Temple. So that's who we are. And another disclaimer we just want to kind of share is that you might hear us use a variety of identity first and person first language. And we're doing that when we're presenting to accommodate both preferences. So everybody in every community has different ways that they prefer to refer to themselves or other folks within that particular identity group. So we're just going to try to use a little bit of both to be respectful of everyone's preferences. So you might hear us say AAC user or person who uses AAC. You might hear us say disabled person, person with disability. So those are just some examples of identity and person first language. So just to briefly go over what AAC is, AAC stands for Augmentative and Alternative Communication. So augmentative in the way that it can be used to add to somebody's existing speech, but then it can also be alternative, meaning that somebody is using this system or device instead of their speech. Our big focus really for today is going to be AAC specifically related to iPads, tablets, software, though that type of AAC. But AAC can also refer to a big umbrella of wide variety of different terms. Basically, it covers anything other than what we think of as oral speaking or talking. So things like gestures, our facial expressions, writing, drawing, using pictures, symbols, using a speech generating device. If you send an email or a text today, that's a form of AAC. If you gave a thumbs up or a smile, that can also be a form of AAC. Some of us use AAC a little bit more than others, but we all use some form of it throughout our days. So here on the screen is a couple different examples of just what some of these more AAC systems or devices can look like. Typically, when we talk about systems, we kind of use like a hierarchy type framework. We say low or light tech, mid and high tech types of devices. Again, our focus is going to be more on those computerized tablets, software type things. So those are examples of high tech systems. But that also, keep in mind, doesn't mean that just because we're using that term high to describe something means that it's inherently superior or better to something else. That might get the descriptor of mid or low or light tech. An example of a light tech device, like we have here on the slide, is the little flip book printout laminated page And that is actually a screenshot, basically, or a printout of the equivalent of what that software might look like on a high-tech system. But a lower light-tech system could be even, more simplistic. We could have just single icon picture cards printed out with Velcro on the back for somebody, or on a key ring or a lanyard, whatever works for that individual. Examples of some mid-tech systems would be the two on the bottom. There's the big red button, and then the green one with the grid of 4 images featuring the smiley face and the cat. So those two are examples of mid-tech. They have batteries, they use recordable speech. So the red button, when you hit the button, it says whatever that recorded message is. Kind of the one thing with that kind of differs with these types of systems, or that makes them stand out a little bit, is that when we record, that's the message, that's what you get. So you do need to kind of like recycle. You have to have new recordings and things like that if you're changing your vocabulary. Whereas with a high-tech system, you can tend to edit in the moment, on the spot, and have multiple messages stored in a more easy way. With a lot of high-tech devices, because they're using computers, they're using synthesized speech, you can have probably as many messages stored as the system will allow, whereas, and you tend to have a lot more, memory, a lot more space on those systems, whereas with a mid-tech device, you might only have, say, the real estate on the screen, like with this one, the green device, you only have real estate for those 4 images there. So those are things to just keep in mind. And again, not one of these is necessarily better than the other. It's just sometimes one works best for an individual. But like I've mentioned, our focus really today is on applications and software, whether that's on an iPad-based system or an Android or other type of touchscreen tablet. We are going to be talking a lot about some different, like, kind of how we talk about these apps and describe these apps. We use a lot of the same terms. Now, on this slide, we do have just some examples of what these kind of high frequency terms when we talk about like parts of an app might be, but each vendor or company that, sells these products, they might have some different, terminology that they use specifically for their product. But keep in mind that this is kind of more of like the umbrella terms to describe some of these things. So when we look here at this particular device, it's a picture of an iPad featuring the app Touch Chat. And particularly, this is one of the word power vocabulary sets. So you'll see that the white bar at the top of the screen, that's the speech display bar. So what happens here is if a person is selecting different icons and making a message, their message kind of gets copy pasted up at the top so that you can see what their longer utterance is. Then to the right side of that, there is a clear button. There's like a little black arrow with an X, but then there's also on the left-hand side of the screen a larger white button that says clear. So what that does when you hit one of those buttons is it clears whatever was listed in the speech display bar. So you might clear a previous message so that then you can start over with a new message. Some folks might have a full day's worth of communication left in that speech display bar, and then if you go and you hit it, you're going to listen to a full day's worth of communications. So one thing, a good skill to have and to practice is to, clear your speech display bar so that you're not repeating all of your business from earlier in the day later on. Other types of things that you'll see that a lot of these buttons, regardless of whether it's a system like this one or different, they're going to use things called folders. And so what that means is that when I touch it, it's going to open up to another page. So for example, the groups. So that's where that folder like icon is pointing to. When you tap on this particular device, you tap groups, it opens up a bunch of different category options. Let's say I want to talk about arts and crafts. I then touch the button that says arts and crafts, and it opens up a folder of words particularly related to that topic. But here on this screen, Each system is really going to have, a lot of them are going to have folders. They're going to have page sets, so multiple layouts or like different pages within the system, if you think of it as a book in a way. But we're all going to have a main place to start, and that's called our homepage. So here with this particular layout, this is an example of the homepage. We'll be taking a look at a lot of different homepage options when we do our demo as well. Another thing that's really featured on a lot of, especially the really popular AAC systems, is the concept of core vocabulary. So core vocabulary refers to those high frequency everyday words. And the idea is that you can use this single set of words across multiple contexts. So this is going to be our things like want, go, stop, some of our pronouns, prepositions, words like more, things like that. So think of like high frequency verbs, those types of words are really going to be our core vocabulary. So a lot of systems, you will see those core vocabulary words on those home pages, and they may or may not then open up related vocabulary depending on what the particular language software is. So with this example on the screen, if you touch the word eat, eat is an example of a core vocabulary word. It's high frequency. We can use that to talk about a variety of different things. We eat dinner, they're eating, eat lunch, breakfast, dessert. And that's an important thing for a lot of folks to be able to talk about. But what kind of going along with this is that when I touch eat, it can also then open up my folder or my page set that features all of my food vocabulary. So even though it's an example of core vocabulary, it can be a way to get us from point A to point B as well, depending on the features of the language software I'm using. Another thing too to mention when we talk about tablet-based communication is this concept of bundled iPads. So we really use this term or bundled tablet, bundled iPad when we're talking about a kind of just consumer device that has special, features that insurance will pay for. So if you're looking to get an iPad and a communication app funded, most likely, well, in probably most of the cases that I've ever worked on, you can't just go and buy one at Target or Amazon and then ask your insurance to reimburse you for it. You do have to go through an approved vendor who then sells an iPad in a case with a communication app on it to the consumer, through their insurance funding, but it's not called an iPad. At the end of the day, it's an iPad. But they all have different names. So if you wanted to go with the Quick Talker Freestyle, that is an iPad system from the company AbleNet. Pranky Romich Company offers their line of iPad-based devices, the VIAs. And then Smartbox Talk to Me Technologies also has one called the TalkPad WeGo. So these are just some examples of iPads that can be funded through different insurances. But at the end of the day, they are iPads in a case with a communication app. So keep that in mind in terms of, funding, things like that. If you have questions about funding and, want to hear more information on this, highly recommend you check out our website for our recording of our funding webinar that we did and some previous iterations of that as well. So for some content related to that topic. This slide here just gives you a kind of visual guide of the different types of iPad apps that kind of exist out there in the world. So this visual is created by an organization called Call Scotland. The link to the full version of the handout, because there's some additional information on there. So feel free to, take that link or give it a Google. So this is a really good resource to look at some of the, available iPad apps out there and then how they're classified. So if you're kind of trying to decide which app is the best fit for, your person or for yourself, we want to look at the different features that are available. Some of these apps are going to have, different features than other ones. Some of them are also going to have a lot of features in common as well. So this can kind of help you narrow down or kind of know what the options that exist out there are. Same thing here by the same organization as well. This one is just based on the Android apps that are available to give you some ideas of which AAC apps might be possible to have access to on those Android tablets as well. Um, so you will see if we go back and look, there's a lot more available on iPad, but there are some pretty robust options available as well on Android, and some of the apps are also cross-platform that they're available on Android and iPad. So some of our popular ones, we're not going to do a demo of these ones today. We've, kind of done them in the past as well, lots of times, but just to kind of make sure that we're mentioning and giving folks a more idea of what all the full options are out there. So we did see an example of Touch Chat a little bit earlier, but Touch Chat is one that's available from the TechOWL Lending Library. This is a pretty popular app that has a lot of different page sets on it. What you'll notice too is that it comes with a variety of options and layouts. You can customize the pictures and the images here to suit your needs. It doesn't just have to be the stick figures, it can be photos, but Touch Chat is a pretty popular option. Same thing too, Proloquo. You'll notice that they do look fairly similar. Proloquo to go, excuse me, also does have a variety of like grammar different levels. So there's a basic, intermediate, and advanced level of how the vocabulary is represented on the system. What's nice about some of this is for folks looking for some more basic introductory layouts that it does have those folders kind of on that home page where a person can, touch people, it opens up people, touch things, it opens up things, and so on as well. But again, can be completely customized, does have access to advanced grammar features, both TouchChat and Proloquo, as well as a lot of other apps. Can be highly customized and can really grow with a person as they're, developing their skills, getting more linguistic and AAC experience. Now, LAMP Words for Life, this one's a little different. You have some less customization features right off the bat here. Meaning you can't necessarily change the grid size, so the number of icons available at once. You'll see over here when we look at Proloquo to go that there's less buttons here on the screen compared to LAMP. Proloquo, we can change that. We can have more, we can have less. Same thing with Touch Chat. We can have more, we can have less. LAMP, we can have more and we can have less, but we can't change the size of those icons. So when I have less icons, I'm just hiding the rest. I'm not necessarily changing the size, making them a little larger to access. The big idea here is that each word has its own location, and it really goes on that idea of kind of like muscle memory, motor planning, motor programming. So every time I hit a certain word, it'll always be that same location. Same thing too, like certain parts of speech, how we conjugate certain verbs, they have a certain location as well. So this one is really based on a lot of pattern learning and can be a really good fit for folks. And it does have a wide variety of vocabulary and requires less hits, but it can be visually overwhelming for a lot of folks as well. And if if looking at all those buttons at once is too much or they're too small for you to easily access, then this might not be the best fit for you. And that's okay. There's lots of other options out there. Another app option is TD Snap. So this is, looking at core vocabulary. This software is also available on Tobii Dynavox's different products of speech generating devices as well. So they are offering, there's I think a motor planning or programming page set here as well. So this screenshot is just one example of what this app can look like. There are lots of other page sets that you can choose from. This can also be customized with the pictures, the button size. You can have more, you can have less, they can be bigger, smaller. You can add photos. This can be customized too. But these are just some examples of, popular apps. Another one too is Grid. This is another one app that does have a wide variety of different page set options within the system. So you'll see that there's kind of here on the screen, there's two different extremes. There's one that has a lot of, single word vocabulary, and then the other one on the right side is the VocoChat vocabulary set, and that's using more pragmatic or phrase-based type vocabulary, kind of like sentence starters to help a person navigate. But you're still going to have access to, the option to have those page sets with that more robust language. Grid also has an open source kind of end where users can upload and share their page sets if they create, some unique things that they want to share with the community. So there's some different features here as well, but these are kind of some of those main heavy hitters or big names in AAC. So now for our fun part, we're going to dive into our app demo. A few more disclaimers. We are going to be minimizing the PowerPoint slides and pulling up the share screen feature. So just bear with us when we are kind of, switching between apps, switching between devices to do this demo. Sometimes with screen sharing, there can be a little bit of a delay here and there with the Zoom connections. So the apps that we selected for today's demo purposes, we wanted to kind of highlight some ones that we haven't really focused on in some of our more recent iterations of this presentation. So the apps that we selected were done either because they're free, so that you can just be able to download them on an existing device to try out or to use permanently. Some of them are cross-platform, or they might be free and cross-platform. When I say cross-platform, that means that they're available both on iOS, so on Apple devices, as well as on the Samsung devices. And then another one that we featured or that we're featuring is one that is new to us. It might not be new to some of the folks in the audience, but we wanted to make sure that we were highlighting a new app that we thought had some really interesting features. Well, new to us app. So to get started, I'm going to minimize the PowerPoint, and I'm going to pull up my screen to share the Go Talk Now Lite app. So 1 second while we do that. So while I'm pulling this up, one thing to mention about Go Talk Now is that this one's available only on iPad. So this is not a cross-platform app, but it is a free app. The Lite version, at least, is the free app. There is a full version that you can purchase for a cost. It is, I don't remember the cost off the top of my head, but it is a little cheaper compared to some of those more heavy hitter popular apps cost-wise. But what's nice about this is that the free app does give you the ability for a certain number of pages within the system. So when I pull it up, just to show you, like, this is 1 page, 2 pages, 3 pages. There is a maximum amount that you can have with the Lite version, but it can be a good place to get started for some folks to see if this is a potential good fit for them before committing to that full purchase. This can also be a decent, backup app to use in emergencies or something like that when you maybe don't have access to another type of device without having to commit to a huge cost. So what's nice about this is that you can fully customize it, meaning we can start with a completely blank slate and build something unique for the individual. So this is just one example of a board or a system that was made for somebody so that they could use this as more of like a choice board type of thing. So when I tap on food, says my message, and then it opens up my food choices. So I can have more options here. I can have less options here. I can add multiple photographs as well within the system. So I don't just have to be limited to one picture. I can drag and drop as many images as it'll let me in the system. So when I tap on snacks, it says my snacks, and now it opens up a page that has all of my favorite snack choices here. If I hit the house button, it takes me back to this main page. What's also nice about this is I don't just have to interact with the buttons on the physical screen. I can use, like at the top, the ones that are like the rectangles. I can also use the arrow buttons on the sides to kind of flip through it like the pages of a book. So if I'm learning how to navigate here as well, I can learn to do it that way. Now, if I want to make any edits or adjustments to my system, I hold this house button down for a couple seconds, and then it takes me back to my main page here. So if I want it to be speaking, like we were just taking a look at, that's the player mode. If I want to make adjustments and edits to my system, that would be page editor. And it's really easy to program and add new buttons, new icons to the system. So I'm going to walk through how to make some of those basic edits here. If I tap to add a button, it pulls up the editing features, and I can quickly add in, an image if I want. I don't have an image right now that I'm going to put in here, but let's pretend I'm adding something in for all of my favorite places. And we're going to have that there and pretend we went and we took a photo or we searched through the internet to add in for our places. So I can end that and have it be done. So I can have places here, but when I touch it, it just says places. It doesn't do anything. I want it to open up to a new folder or a new page. So I'm going to go back in here and I'm going to add an action. I'm going to do jump to specific page, set, on page 5, because that's my blank page. So now when I flip through my book, here's page 5. I can change the title of this. So now it's places, it matches, and I can change the number of icons that I want. Maybe I want more, maybe I want less within the system. And I can go through here and I can change all of these different button texts. So it says my favorite places. Let's say like I want to go to Target. I can drag and drop to change the size of the icons. I can add those pictures. Let me add Wawa as an option. Maybe I want to add another one down here. I can say, I want to go to the beach. And then I can add and customize this fairly easily on the spot here. And when I'm all finished with my edits, I just re-hit that house button, takes me back to my page, and now I'm in my player mode. So when I tap places, it's going to talk, and now it's going to open up that page that I just created. Or I can talk about Target, Wawa, and the beach, and any other places I might want to add in the future. So that's some really nice base features of Go Talk Now and Go Talk Now Lite. So keep in mind that the free version is the light version, and you can't have an infinite number of pages in here, but it can be a good way to get started. So that's our first app. Now we're gonna pass it over so we can look at some more of these cool apps and their features. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
All right, I'm going to be talking about WeaveChat. So again, bear with me while I share my screen. 1 second. WeaveChat is pretty cool. It was recently featured on Open AAC. If you follow like the Open AAC dialogue, it is available on iOS, Android, as well as Kindle. So lots of options there, and it's completely free. They kind of have on their website that they're always going to be free. There's no cost associated with this app at all. So it's a really great option if funding is a concern. This is the homepage of the WeaveChat app. So this is one of the grid sizes. There are 12 grid sizes available. And this is the default scrolling homepage. So that means that you do have to scroll up and down to access the rest of the vocabulary. However, there are grid-based homepages that don't require scrolling. You can see there's 4 columns. We've got pronouns in yellow, verbs in green, our folders are orange, and then all of those kind of like extra fun words are on the side in pink and blue. Super customizable. The same way that you can make advanced modifications to TouchChat or Proloquo in terms of the button images, the button sizes, all of that stuff you can do in WeaveChat as well. Some interesting features of WeaveChat. So this bar at the top is called the recommendations bar. This is kind of right underneath the message bar, and this will change as you begin to select your message. So it will change to kind of recommend what phrase or what word might come next, as well as giving some verb endings as well. So if you click on a verb, you'll have the option to choose the tense. You can also change this in settings if you don't want the option to choose the tense. Maybe someone you're working with isn't quite there yet. You can get rid of that setting. And notice that that recommendations bar is going to give you a new suggestion based on what you just selected. You can also select and create phrases that you can pre-save within the app. So you can add a new phrase and, this is, let's see, I have this kind of a silly sentence right here. I want to eat. I don't know, I'm hungry, so I'm thinking about food. I'm thinking I want to eat food. So, and then at the bottom, I can click add phrase and it will save it. So instead of typing out that phrase whenever I'd like to say it, I can just access it right from my home page. This also has the capability to find words. So similar to some of our other apps, if you're looking for a word and you don't know where it is, you can it and actually walk you through the path to the words on how to get to that word that you're looking for. That's another really helpful feature. Right now, WeChat is available in English, Castilian, Spanish, Vietnamese, and Macedonian. However, they are working on Spanish to be released in 2025. Important things to note about WeChat. This is kind of the chat page. So what's really cool is you can add in people with usernames or other people who use WeChat, and you can send pictures back and forth with each other, like within the app, which is kind of cool. So if you're like communicating with a family member, you can kind of have a group chat right here. Maybe mom also has WeChat and can kind of chat with their kid through this app. All of the editing is done in the settings, so you do have to like physically leave the board to edit it, but super easy to add a new word to your device. You can add a new custom button, typing in, let's say I want to talk about, I'm going to add a button for, I don't know, pizza. And let's see here. And then I can kind of select what category I want that to go in. So maybe I don't want it to be in food. Maybe I'm going to put it in a new category or anywhere I'd like, really, and add your button that way. One thing I will note about WeChat is that the voices are limited to the voices on your device. So they do not have voices built into the app. So you are stuck with iOS voices, Android voices, or Kindle voices as you see fit. Something to note. Last thing I'll note about WeaveChat, there is in-app support. So you can kind of chat with somebody right within the app if you have problems. I can't speak exactly on how robust this system is. If somebody's actually on chat with you, not sure. If you find out, let me know. But that is kind of a cool feature as well. So that's WeaveChat. I'm going to pass it on to Jen and Courtney.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen while Courtney goes over the next app. Okay.
There we go. Right. Hi, everyone. So I'm going to be talking about AVAS. So AVAS is available on both Android and iOS, which is really nice. And with this app, like most AAC apps, it is highly customizable. So we have different folders. Right here we have people, actions, description, topics, food. And with this app, you can change the grid size, which is nice, unlike the other ones where you could just hide it and it'll still be the same grid size. With this one, if you go to menu and then settings and then picture grid and then pictures per screen, and then you're able to change how many pictures you want to have on your grid, which is really nice. Yes, and if you want 40, you have to go, if you want more than a certain size, I think you have to go into settings and with settings and okay. I cannot find it at the moment, but there is another button you're able to press where if you want more than an amount, you have to like change the setting. And so also with this, you can edit the pictures that you're able to see. So if you go to menu and edit words, you can either delete or add new ones. And if you want to add new ones, for the picture, you can type in the word, like if you were to say like slide, it'll give you options to click an image, or you can upload an image from your device, which is really cool. Or for the voice output, you could also record your voice saying the word, which is really nice. I like that about this app as well. And then we also have the keyboard option.
Keyboard.
And with the keyboard, you can type out the word and it'll say it. And what I really like is in the bottom right corner, yeah, they have a bell, and that is perfect for getting someone's attention across the room, which is nice because if the client using this is nonverbal, instead of getting up to go to the person and get their attention using their device, they're able to press the bell to get their attention and let them know that they want to communicate something on the device, which is really nice. Yeah. And then just some other personal preferences with this app. They have a light versus dark setting, which is nice. So if you have sensitive eyes and you want to have the dark screen, if you go home and settings, and then if you go to keyboard, it's on the, you go to themes, my apologies. If you go back and you press themes, and then you can have it on the light mode or the dark mode, which is nice because again, a lot of the other apps don't offer like the little things like this. And then I also really like how this app has a favorites tab. So if there's like a phrase that you use often, if you go to your favorites tab, it'll have it there for you. And again, this is all customizable. You can change it to what you want it to say, upload pictures. And the uploading pictures features is nice because if you have family members that you talk about often, or friends or teachers or just anybody in your life, you're able to upload that picture instead of just saying friend. You can add their name and their picture, which is really nice. And then there's also the search option with this app. So if you can't find a word right away, you can type it in and it'll pop it up right for you. So if you were to put like house or home or anything, it'll come up right for you. And then this app also has word predictability. So as you're typing, it'll show different options. It's predicting what you're going to say, so which is really nice. And yeah, those are the different features that make it different from the other AAC apps. Thank you.
Thanks, Courtney. Okay, I'm gonna go over one Another app called Talk Suite. I am mindful of the time. I am a very fast talker. I saw in the chat. I think we just have a lot of content to get through. I'm going to speak as slowly and clearly as possible, but also knowing that I want to be able to show as much as possible during this. People might be more familiar with this than I was. I have recently learned about this app. What's unique about it is kind of the philosophy behind it is not just for sentence creation and access to core vocabulary, but the concept that communication is about creating relationships and creating kind of having that dialogue, right? And that we say the same things a lot over and over again when we're having those conversations. So you do have access to, if you see the core vocabulary, right? And it's all categorized and color coded, and you have access to the core vocabulary that you would have on any of these other systems. The big difference is that, some of these systems have all these systems have page sets that you can access in your vocabulary. They make these just kind of here for you for whatever communicative function you have in that moment. So you don't have to change out your page set. You just go to the different page set in that moment. You can change the grid size. So this is a larger one, but don't think that it has to be that large. Some of the really cool things that they have are, quick topics that maybe might come up frequently throughout the day that you would want to have, quick go-to things to say. Again, that concept of being able to say the same thing over and over again to have those conversations to make communication efficient. So that way we can be very effective and continue to maintain those relationships and make those connections. A really cool feature is their photo album. So you can take photos on your iPad or on a different system and then upload them. I have created one for our ACEs program, which is coming up. And these are some pictures from previous ones, but you can program phrases based on the pictures that you take. We all I know that I chat and show pictures when something happens. Someone's like, what happened this weekend? Check out the photos I took. It was so much fun. And this can kind of give access to our AAC users that same ability. So
we use a power link connected to a blender during adapted cooking. We had different kinds of switches to try.
So that way you can program whatever you want to go along with that picture, which is a really neat feature. It has stories. So if you want to retell a story, or if you're a younger individual that does bedtime stories, it has stories associated with, like, if we're meeting people, and it kind of gives a little bit of that script to make that conversation flow a little quicker. And then you also have like your favorites. So you can put all of the things that are personal for you, your fringe, your favorite things. I think, given the time, we're all a little hungry. So this is what I had programmed.
Italian hoagie from Wawa with mustard, hot and sweet peppers.
Right? You can put down exactly what it is that you want on there. It's a really, really cool app. I highly recommend taking a deep dive further into it. And seeing everything that's available. Like I had said, you have your core, you have access to a keyboard, just like everything else, but it just kind of gives some additional features to make that communication flow and that conversational flow go a little quicker. I'm going to stop my share.
Okay, so that's kind of wraps up our live demo. I'm going to pull back up our slides just so we can kind of go over the ones that we just chatted and took a look about, or took a look at. a little more. So on the handout, so especially if you do download the handout, it will have links to the app's websites, and then so you can read more and find out about some additional features that we were not able to go over today. So the ones that we focused on, we had Go Talk Now Lite. This one was free and it is only available on iOS. We've Chat. This one is also a free app and it is cross-platform, available on iOS, Android, and the Amazon tablets. Avaz has a free 2-week trial, but after that, to be able to continue using it, there is that purchase required, but this one is an example of one of those cross-platform systems. So this is available on iOS and Android. And then TalkSuite is a paid-for app, and it is only available on iOS at this time. But we did want to share this that it does have some unique features that are different from some of the other heavy hitter apps out there. So just to conclude today, we're going to go over a couple more apps. Some of these are still free. Some of them are also going to be those cross platforms or just ones that we thought were worth sharing. So here's another, this is an app that's really like text to speech kind of forward and focused a little bit more. So this one is Spoken. It is a free app and it also has paid and monthly and yearly plans available. And this one is another example of those cross-platform types of apps that are available. Seaboard, this one is also free. There are those upgraded features that you can pay for as well. And it is another example of a cross-platform one. What's different about this particular app, though, is that it also has, you can access it through your web browser rather than just within like the actual app itself. So this is Seaboard. Chatterboards is a free app that's available on iPad. So it's got a lot of core vocabulary on here. So this can be a way to kind of get somebody started accessing core vocabulary type systems to just try out, see if it's a good fit without, again, having to commit to that those more expensive apps. Cough Drop is another cross-platform option. This one does have a free 2-month trial. There are subscription and lifetime payment options to be able to have access to the, the full features. But there are also some free boards available that you can use with it from the web browser option. And so cross-platform here, iOS, Android, web browsers, and then also Amazon. Another feature of Cough Drop 2 is that this is another one of those apps where users can upload their particular pages or files that they've created and share those with other users. So you can type in, any topic on the website in the search, and there's a good chance that somebody else already created a board related to that topic, and you can, check that out and, get ideas or use it as your own system to talk about those topics. Another app that's kind of newer out there in the AAC space is called Flex Speak. So what makes this one kind of stand out from other apps is that it's really multilingual focused. So it has lots of different languages base that you can use within the system. So English, Spanish, Mandarin, Vietnamese, Hindi, Korean, Russian, French, Arabic, and they have even more languages that are in their beta trial period as well, or beta trials. So it's really nice that it integrates that kind of like bilingual support within the app in a different way than other apps do. So there's a free 30-day trial, and but you do have to, purchase to the app afterwards to continue using it. And then it is available on iOS. This is a example of a more traditional text-to-speech type app. This one is called Predictable, and this is a cross-platform example, iOS and Android. So you'll see here that it kind of uses it uses a keyboard and it has some additional built-in features. You can save messages. There are some different settings in here that you can customize your keyboard so you can have some pictorial supports in it as well, should you need some additional customizations there. So Predictable is another cross-platform option. Sounding board. This is a free option for some AAC, kind of to get you started with maybe, learning to touch the screen, to activate icons, things like that. So this can be a place to, start to introduce that concept, especially maybe for early intervention kiddos. So any of these apps that we've talked about today, that you can request those from the TechOWL Lending Library if you're a Pennsylvania resident interested in borrowing and trying out some AAC. We also just quickly want to mention our different AAC services that we offer through TechOWL. So we do have some special project contracts and grants that we do offer some more direct services. Our services, though, through these special contracts are virtual, and there are certain requirements for individuals to be eligible for these programs. So more information about those programs and eligibility is available on our website, but these are for Pennsylvania and Philadelphia consumers, respectively, depending on which program that you're eligible for. But if you have questions with that, feel free to, send us an email, check out our website. We do also provide free device demonstrations and video chats. These are kind of more informal consults. We can answer questions about particular apps and things like that, but we're not going to be able to give people formal recommendations for this. We might be a speech pathologist, but we're not necessarily, your speech pathologist. So we can't make that formal recommendation, but we can, talk about apps in a more general sense, or devices in a more general sense, and AAC to answer, some of those questions to help you kind of navigate the world of getting a communication device. We also have our upcoming ACEs program, Augmentative Communication Empowerment and Supports. That is currently it's a 1-week on-campus experience for AAC users to come to Temple University's campus, take communication classes, participate in adaptive rec leisure, and we're hosting that this July. And then our aaccommunity.net website that has more information related to our particular programs, as well as some more general AAC information. And here is just some information on how to borrow equipment from the TechOWL Lending Library. So this would be how you could borrow an iPad to try out some of these apps that we talked about today. You would go on here, create your account, and the equipment that you're borrowing is an iPad. And then there's a notes section text box when you go to checkout, and that's where you would type the name of the apps that you want to request. So these items, the iPads, any other items that you might borrow from the lending library, those are sent directly to you at a Pennsylvania residence or address via UPS. You have the equipment for the duration of the loan period, and then when you're ready to send it back, or when it's due back, you can put it back in the box, and we have a return shipping label with the equipment, and we can either schedule a time for UPS to come out and pick it up, or you can drop it off at a UPS at your convenience. So this is a great way to be able to try not just AAC equipment, but other types of assistive technology devices that we have in the inventory, so that you can kind of try before you buy. So a lot of this stuff can be pretty expensive, so you want to make sure that the equipment that you're planning on getting is the right fit for you or the person that you know and support. So we like to say we're device agnostic, we're unbiased, so we can be a way to borrow that equipment without necessarily having to go through a particular vendor or salesperson. Feel free to follow us on our social media. We have Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. This is the general TechOWL contact information. The information, our contact information for Temple University's Institute on Disabilities. TechOWL is a program of the Institute on Disabilities at Temple. So for more information about the Institute and other initiatives that some of our amazing colleagues are offering, definitely take a look at that website as well. And then what you've been waiting for, our survey and certificate request form. So feel free to, take the link. I think the link will be put in the chat as well. And then the QR code here, you can scan that on the screen. So the certificates, we do just ask that you, hopefully complete that as soon as you can today. And that we do verify the attendance with the Zoom record. Hopefully we should get these certificates to you fairly soon, but just please be a little patient when we get those to you. It does take a little bit of time, but we'll make sure that you get your certificates of attendance. So I'll leave that up here just for a couple more seconds. But we want to thank everyone for attending today's webinar, as well as if you've attended any of the other ones this month for our May series. If you have any questions, you can feel free to email any of us, and we're happy to, answer those questions, discuss things. We try to be a resource the best we can for folks. And definitely check back on the TechOWL website, on AAC community website, as well as the Institute on Disabilities websites and socials for more learning opportunities. Typically, we offer a webinar series in May for National Speech Language Hearing Month, and then again in October for AAC Awareness Month as well. That's what we've been doing the last couple years. So I anticipate that we'll probably be back in October. So definitely check our socials for any future release dates of new trainings or offerings. That's the best way to get the most up-to-date information. And hopefully you enjoyed attending these webinars, and we'd love to see you again in the future. So we'll hang on just for a couple seconds in case anybody has any additional questions or comments. But if not, that does conclude today's webinar. We'll hang on for about a minute or two and see. But thank you all for joining us. All right, doesn't look like there's any questions. So again, we just want to thank everyone for attending today's webinar. And we hope you all have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much. Bye now.